leader is not there, all of a sudden, uh, because you are not them, and they don't get that warm, prickly feeling whenever they are performing in front of them in rehearsal. All of a sudden, not put it like this: the leader, our choir directress, wasn't there for one of my rehearsals, and we was a song that we've been singing all the time. I said, okay, we're going to sing this song. Let's make sure everybody have their parts. So I looked at the sopranos and I said, okay, sopranos, sing your part. All of a sudden, they had no voice because they're so used to the choir directress singing their part to them. They always sang with her. She would oversing them in rehearsal and make them sound better than they are. So now when the choir directress is not there and I'm asking for it, they're looking at me like, well, it's too high. And I'm like, no, it's the same key. So I started pointing, okay, you sing your part. They looked directly at me. No. I said, no. I said, okay, rehearsal over. And I stopped rehearsal right there and sent everybody home. So we'll sing something that we know familiar on Sunday.
Yes. Mine is somewhat similar to Sam's. They would sometimes when I would deal with choir members, they when I would want to give them their part, and they just would not sing. And it's like uh the director, I would not usually be the main choir director, but when the choir director's not there and he wants me to run the choir rehearsal, and I would give them their part, and then all of a sudden, they just would not sing. And um, and I said, I'd like to know what's wrong. And sometimes I did this one particular thing. I used reverse psychology. I taught this song, Jesus Will. Uh, I don't know if you remember. Jesus will. Yes, he will. Jesus will. Oh, yes, he will. And the director that we had would have someone to sing it by themselves. Okay. And he would do it. But when it comes to me, they act different. Like I'm not going to sing it. So this is what I would say. I said, and I said, although he's going to be with the Lord, Stephen Jones, and he wanted me to run the rehearsal, and I would pick someone to sing the song by themselves, and this person would not sing. I said, oh, when Stephen Jones is here, you all would sing it, and everybody said, Amen, you know, and he would go right on and sing it. So it's just something about that original choir director that would be there. Everything just goes like, whatever he says. It feels like whatever they say is law. But when it comes to oh, yeah, well, when it comes to another person, it's like they act different. Like in an elementary school, when the original teacher is there, but when the substitute, is there, they act different. And I teach quiet, and I'll say this and I'll be through. I said, I told them, when I would do workshops, it does not matter who is there. You are to be obedient to that person. It does not matter. Okay. But there's just that one particular person or two other persons that just will decide to act different, or like you would say, unruly. So that's my take on that. Hmm. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Okay. Day one. Right. Hmm.
Virgis, go ahead.
been there and done all that. In the last 20, 30 years, all those things have been done with many, many choirs that I've worked with from the 80s, 90s, 2000. They, they were they would have been effective in all the choirs, but the biggest click or, or killer in the church is leadership. And as people say, like priests like people or vice versa, if the priest got issues, his people got issues. If I had worked in a church to where the musician that they had, he was well loved, he was well liked, couldn't play much, couldn't play good at all. I ain't gonna lie to you, he couldn't play good at all. I worked with him. He was not he was a musician by in his own mind. Always played wrong chords, never studied, got on my nerves. But they loved him because he knew how to flirt with the girls, flatter the pastor, and basically and he was a singer, so that's what got him over. He sung most of the songs. I don't sing, and I'm proud about it. But I do. I am very thorough on what I teach, so that you know you get it correct. He doesn't care. However he feels like doing, he does it. And he laughs it off, and everybody is more of a social gathering than a rehearsal. But he got a better job and left. Now, when they asked me to come through, I was asked to come through the church from a drummer who knew they needed a musician. I came through, and when I got the door, you know you get that coldness when you walk in. Everybody's like, "How are you? Where's so and so?" I said, "I don't know who you're talking about." And he said, "Oh, he's not here. No, he's not here." And that's all. And it was like um, a wake because this one particular musician decided to take another job someplace else, and it became my fault because he was not there. And so what happens is that attitude and that low key feeling went throughout the all the choirs, including the children's choir. The pastor tried to be professional. He wasn't happy that the guy left because he don't because he look at me and see he wasn't getting no flattery out of me. I'm all business. Okay, he didn't know how to handle me. Uh, and as you well know, I don't know. So when I come do the work, and people, they want some fluff, some sugar candy. No, no. Take a spoonful of call it on, have a seat. Let's go. We came here to work. We didn't come here to play. Especially if I got to play for all the choirs and I have to know the material. I need, you know. And so they never really totally got over it. Um, but what happened was later on, during maybe like I think the second year, the musician left the church he went to and came back. And it was like the rapture. He's back. And everybody's happy. It's all grins and all that kind of stuff. Now again, I've been doing all the music for that whole year, whatnot, to help teach and whatnot. But when he came through, all of a sudden, everything I did was not that important now because he's back, and we can do now the songs that that he didn't do right because he couldn't play them right. And I tell people in a minute, I've been playing long enough to be able, as Brock says, adjudicate the musician. And I know when a musician can play and when they can't play. But because the
Mm-hmm.
church didn't care how he sound, but they just liked his personality and how he made them feel, they was they settled with it. I didn't stay there too much longer after that because I saw where it was going. And then of course the pastor said something across the pulpit one day, one Sunday morning. And of course, after service, him and I had an office talk. And no, kind of shook him up a little bit, him and the deacons. So I knew it was time for me to get up out of here in a couple of Sundays. And when I was my job, I worked at the hospital. When I was at the hospital chain, that was my exit to get up out of there. And I didn't care. Oh, and just and add insult to injury, it was the choir's anniversary. I taught the choir songs for 2 or 3 Sundays, and the woman that was singing and everything. And when it came time for the choir to sing the song, they had a piano and they had an organ. I played the piano on my part, and let the guy that supposed to play the organ because that's the he couldn't do nothing on piano. He was so and what they did, they switched up the song that I'd been teaching all that time and sang one of his songs. I said, okay, that's the handwriting on the wall, and it was time for me to go because I knew if I stayed there, it would have been WWF. I don't play those
Well,
guys.
did the last song, Devil's Workshop, I believe. Okay. Yeah, I do too. I switch that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, this is the problem. Depending on the quality of people you have in your choir, if they are whosoever will choir, you're not going to get quality music. I just be
No.
straightforward with you. I'm not. I don't care. I don't care how many people I have in the choir. If out of 20 people, I only got three or four that know how to hold parts, and everybody else just slides up and down the scale, like looking at the stock market. Then you spend more time teaching people how to hold their note than them actually learning the song, and that just puts more pressure and on the musician. And if he's working with a director who know better, it just adds more on the musician who's trying to play the song correctly. I try to be a perfectionist in what I do because I want to be able to play the great musics and people can appreciate it. Even if I play them my rendition, they can say he did some things different, but I like what he did. And I say that what in the world are you doing? So so I always try to make sure if I'm playing John P. Key, Evan Hawkins, even Shirley Caesar for the older choirs, and so on and so forth, John Whitfield, it has to sound like the music. It can't. The intro has to sound like something from that artist. I've worked with musicians who could not play the intro, who didn't know the drive. They just threw whatever chord fitted in there, and the folks loved it because they wasn't looking at they wasn't hearing the quality of the music. They were looking at
Yeah.
the pop star, the pop
Yeah.
musician. And like I said, I was never, like I said, I didn't have nothing personal with him other than the fact that he couldn't play. And I say it again, at my age and stage, I would never work with a musician who can't play. I would tell the pastor, if I had to play, I would say, nope, this is not the church I'm going to pray for because he can't play, pastor, and you don't know music. So I need to move along. And you find somebody who's deaf, or you find somebody who's going to tolerate that. I'm hard on that because you're not going to take away from what I've worked hard and what God has blessed me with to deal with somebody
Exactly.
who don't know what they're doing and y'all are satisfied with that. What do you want me for? You want me to make him sound good? No, I don't play those games. You want a circus? You want to do a melody from a music standpoint? Get another musician. See, and so you as the musician have to have a standard in you, so that the churches, regardless of what they say, and some of them be paying some good money. See, we hear some good money, but I said keep it. My integrity, my character, and what I do means more to me
Yeah.
than the dollars and cents you're trying to throw at me. Because once you can buy, you can buy me with money, then you can treat me any kind of way with money.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, oh, look at me. I said, excuse me, stand up. What you tell me? Where's your coat? What they my brother? What did the older pastor in our church used to tell people when they wouldn't act right?
If you don't like what I'm saying, get your hat and your coat, and there's the door.
Or he would say, let the door hit you in the back.
Where the good Lord split you.
Okay. I did not tolerate that because if I'm in charge, I'm going to be in charge. And I did that others might fear. I'm not the one. I don't know who you had with you before. It might have been Bogle the clown or Lock. I know. I don't play. You come to rehearse, you're going to rehearse. And like I said, if I find where a pastor has money to water, knock knock knock. It's not the police, it's me. Yes, you should be nervous. Close your door. Let's talk. Didn't play no game. Now, if you want me to play for you, stop messing. As you come to rehearsal and you listen to your, and guess what? Some of them got better and some are straightened out. And I had no more problem with that pastor till I left. Again, too many churches I've worked in where the pastor will try to manipulate or control the choir from his office, and vice versa. They don't like my song. Pastor, he's doing one of them songs, da, 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 da. And he come in, Papa, I heard you doing the song. Yes, the song you picked. Oh, it's that song? Yes, that's the one they don't want to do. Then all of a sudden, everybody's happy and they ready to do it. That type of politics. So yeah. Again, I'm in New York, so there's a lot of politics, bureaucracy in the church, and they like to and they always like to play games with the musicians until the musicians put his foot down. And usually you got to put your foot down at the pastor's office and let him know until you can play, you either let me do it my way or let me preach and you play. And I told him that I'll preach, I'll find a sermon, and preach it and probably get a good offering. You come up and play. Oh, and they get mad, but they know it's the truth. Yes, I can preach. I know the word of God. I can say something to make somebody happy if they know more than me. But you come up and play. Turn the organ on. See how long it takes you to do that. And they shut up and they say, okay, brother Top, but I didn't mean to say yes, you did. You just didn't expect me to say what I said. Do we understand one another? He said, oh, we're very clear. But I knew that my time was already handmine was already on the wall. So, but I refused to let any choir members. Again, I wasn't nasty. I'm not a nasty person. I'm a very nice person. I can tell a joke here and there. But when it comes to rehearsal and you're doing something in ministry, I don't want no game plan. Don't come in there popping gum. Don't come in there and I'm here. Oh no, what you got in your mouth? Somebody give us some tissue because I can't hear you singing and you doing that. No, I never know. You will never not in this choir.
Yeah, I would be in the choir. I'm sorry. I would be in the choir. Years ago, I was in this mass choir under Maddie Moss Clark. And she would see somebody chewing gum. Oh, baby, give me this gum now. Now. That's how they see. We used to have those bona fide. Well, not used to because Burgess and myself, we've been under people that would not take anything. I used to be this one particular clinician in this gospel music workshop that it was held here said, we as directors have to be plus. We can never be negative about situations. We stand up and for what we believe in, what we're going to stand for, and what we are not going to stand for. Be it that case. Like at one time I taught a song, and this one choir member said, well, I just want to let you know, David, I don't like that song. I said, why? She said, because I just don't like it. I said, to the choir members and you that said this, whatever you're going to say to me, as far as that song is concerned, if you're going to say that you don't like it or whatever you're going to say, back it up. If you can't back it up, shut up. Simple. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's just yeah, and yeah, and especially yeah, yeah, especially. Okay, I'm sorry. This just brought up to my mind too. When one person is teaching part, when the director's teaching parts, okay, they'll get at the beginning of this song. This woman was teaching the sopranos. Everybody is talking, and I couldn't take it. And I just said, wait a minute, choir members, in respect to the director that's teaching, because you all don't know the song yet. She's teaching the soprano part, and everyone else is talking. That is a disrespect to that teacher. When they get to you, altos, for example, you want to hear your part. You don't want to be listening to the part, and everybody else is talking. I said we need to give respect to the director as far as that's concerned, and it's really I'm gonna say it that it's just uncalled for adults to act that way.
Well, David, now
You know.
David, that is the point that you finally got to. Everybody else finally got to. When are we going to stop dealing with children in the choir?
Thank you.
If you got a
Uh,
problem at home, stay at home and deal with it. When you come to the choir,
Take
if you
that
can't leave it
home.
outside, then don't bring it into me because now you've messed up what I've got scheduled. Because again, sometimes you only have these people for an hour and a half. You don't want to lose 45 minutes fighting with people.
Yes, exactly.
But that's the reason
Mhm.
why if I know I got some enemies in the camp, I'm the Joshua. I'm the Joshua. You wanna come this way? I'll catch you before choir rehearsal. I'll catch you. I'll get you with your pastor because I want to say it in front of your pastor before you go back and lie to him about something I didn't
Mhm.
say. Say your
Before you
pastor
get
told
back
me.
in line, you said something
I
there
bring the
when
pastor.
you get
Listen,
the line.
your member says so and so and so and so. What now? Now, am I right? Look at it. This your pastor right here. Say, and then all of a sudden their attitude changes and they want to smile and grin, and all of a sudden a halo pops up with wings. I said, no, that's. I said, yeah, you're that's that that's that devil and angel clothing. I call them out. I said, I don't care. I said, just like you showed that them hate that halo with angel wings in front of your pastor, you show me the same thing in rehearsal. I tell the pastor, you need to come to rehearsal, and I look at them. I'm not asking. They come because I realize a lot of the attitude and stuff is coming from his office. So in order to nip it in the bud, you need to be able to rehearsal. And they look at me, but you need to be able to rehearsal. I'm not asking.
Hmm.
Again, remember, I'm in New York City, five boroughs. Rough. The only tougher place in New York is Chicago. And when it comes to choirs in church, and again, and New York is very competitive, and pastors are very quick over the pulpit and say, "I know the choir. I've heard the choir sing better than that the other Sunday. I don't know what happened this Sunday." They'll say stuff like that, and my things are, "Oh, you coming that way? Okay, let's knock knock. I'm coming in." And they know what it's going to be about. I said, because I got family members who would knock on your pulpit doing your sermon. Say it
I
again.
think I think you hit it. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, brother. Go ahead, my brother. Go on,
No,
carry.
no. I was gonna say literally. You hit it right on the head, Verge. Because quite honestly, a lot of that stuff, like you said, it comes from the pastor. Because a lot of times you do deal with people who have a real childish mentality when it comes to being in the choir, and because every I'm a firm believer. everybody is invited to the sanctuary. Everybody is not invited to the pulpit to preach because you haven't been called to do that. You need special training and call a call to do that. And you got to walk through that thing. I see the choir right in line with the pastor. If you're not gonna let anybody in your pulpit, you should not let just anybody in your choir. And the reason
Mhm.
being is because a lot of people they just love music, but they can't sing. If they can't sing, you can sing in the congregation and lift up a whatever type of sound you want to lift up, and
A
it'll be a
joyful noise.
yeah, joyful noise. But when it comes to that platform, it needs to be a skilled noise, a skilled sound, that's coming across. And now in a lot of churches, the way that they have people in position is by how much they give. And so if a person gives a lot or this and that, then I just want to be in the choir. Absolutely. As long as they keep that offering and tithes coming, then they allow them to be wherever they want in church a lot of times. And that's not the way it should be. The one thing I say is even with technology being the way it is, a lot we don't well, we're not producing or reproducing great organists and keyboardists like we used to. Most keyboardists and organists I grew up with could teach vocals, and they knew how to harmonize things and it matched with the chords. That is not this industry, not right now. This industry does not know how to do that. Either they're good at one thing and they're not good at multiple things. And so um a lot of rehearsal time ends up being 3 hours at times like that. And quite honestly, with technology, and I'm kind of, I guess, making a little plug here, but multi-tracks makes it so much easier. If you say, hey, listen, this month, here's 10 songs that we're doing this month. You can send those songs out. And then also, and there's other applications other than multi-tracks, but I just thought of multi-tracks because I use them quite a bit. But you can put soprano, alto, and tenor part right in there, and you can solo it out so that and send it out so that way they have all of their parts, and so you come to rehearsal prepared instead of coming to rehearsal to learn. Rehearsal is not a learning platform, it's a preparation platform and things like that. And I think a lot of times we used to use
It
rehearsal
is.
for learning, which I understand it, but now that things have evolved the way they have with technology, we got to use it to our benefit. I've seen. I was a part of a community choir for the Martin Luther King celebration, and literally, it's usually about 150, 200 people in the choir, and of course, you're gonna get a whole lot of people talking. But like some of you have said, being firm. Nope, nope. Cut all that extra chatter out. But the thing was is these people had multiple giftings. He knew how to direct the organist or the pianist, and he also knew how to teach the parts, and he came prepared. So many people are treating ministry like a secondary stepchild, and I hate to
Yeah.
say it, but they don't treat it with the respect and honor that it should have. And so then rehearsals become 2 hours, 3 hours, and that's not a good management of time at all.
No. Especially if you don't know what you're doing.
I've had MDs that did not know hymns, not hymns at all. And I found out that their local church that they grew up in didn't do hymns. They did whatever, and they put whatever tune to it and went from there. And then I had to almost every rehearsal teach that individual the melody line of the hymns of the for that Sunday morning, so that he'd be able to work, so he'd be able to and do his with Ricky Dillard on a hymn. Which I said to myself,
Huh?
what are you doing? Just sing the hymn. You ain't gotta do no hand movements with him. It's a chorus and a hymn, a chorus and a hymn, chorus and but again, this is some of the stuff that because I know because I was taught better. I learned better from those who knew more than I did. I learned from people of excellence down through my years who knew music, who studied music, who believed in proper theory. So I learned the proper theory so that I could perfect what I was trying to do. I did not never want to be sloppy because I didn't hang around sloppy musicians, sloppy directors. I've had directors that had directed a 600 voice choir back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
and the way they handled the sections and broke them off, where you had 200 tenors here, 400 altos here, 100 another 300 or 400 sopranos here. They had to spread out this big church again, and they were able to command the respect and the discipline and the attention because they came there with no nonsense. Okay, and they kind of again learned under the umbrella of the Matty Moss Clarks of the world, who came who knew what they knew, and
Who knew?
no one could
Thank
do it.
you.
Nobody could do it better.
Are you through?
Yes, sir.
Right
You are
there.
ahead.
'Cause that's why I want to bring up Reverend Blair about that one guy that I was telling you that who was his name? Brian Carn wanted to teach that bass player during service this one particular song. I don't even know if he wrote it or anything. That was very uncalled for. The bass player did not know what he was, what Brian was teaching him. He was being a bit of a narcissist by saying, stop, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just looking at him like, you're doing all this during a service? And he did not know, there was no communication in between Brian and that bass player. It was like Brian was going this way and the bass player was over here, somewhere else as far as that's concerned. And I just looked at him like, pick a rehearsal day and a time to get with that bass player and get everything straight. During service, oh no. I told somebody, I told Reverend Blair about yeah, this person. And I said that Brian he wouldn't get away with anything like that with me during the service. If my pastor would have told me, or evangelist Brian Carn is going to be our evangelist, what have you, I would tell him after looking at all that, I would say, I need to talk with him. I need to talk with him. As a matter of fact, that's the way I am with a lot of singers. I was asked to play for this one woman that's a member of the Bobby Jones Nashville Super Choir. She was a special guest. I knew on that day of that service. I didn't know what she was doing. I said, honey, let's get over here to this prayer room where the piano was so I can find out what you are going to sing before this service starts. That's what I believe in rehearsal. Because what I saw what Brian Carn did, whew, I just cringed. I'm like, oh my goodness. Not during service. Six, two, and five, I believe. Yeah, yeah, just about. Yes.
Not in CCM
Well,
though. Not when you've been indoctrinated into CCM, then it's that's not the note you play.
Right, that part. Well, the funny piece about it is no, no. Well, it was more of a worshipy. It was more of a worshipy prophetic flow, which can be a mix of both gospel and CCM, believe it or not. But I will say that usually, and it's funny because Brian Carn, he knows his numbers, where a lot of musicians
but he
don't
didn't do any
numbers.
numbers
He didn't,
though.
right, he didn't do any numbers that time. So that's why I was like, oh man. But the ironic piece is this: like everybody is flipping out about what he did and how he did. But you know, I appreciate the contribution that Maddie Moss Clark had on every single choir member and director. But she was known to throw a shoe at somebody right in the middle of,
Oh, I've seen
um,
it.
you know what I mean? And then J Moss, I love his level of production and excellence. I watched him in a live concert throw a stick at his nephew or his little cousin, Karen Clark Sheard's son, J. Drew Sheard, or threw a stick at him because he kept missing these certain hits in the song. The crazy part, and believe it or not, Pharrell, the producer, Pharrell, he cursed J. Drew Sheard out. The young dude, the son, the producer, cursed him out and asking a simple question of "Give me that gospelicious." Clark said he was like, "You are Clark, aren't you?" Well, give me that, blankety. I was like, "Whoa!" Like this dude cursing at him and this, and that, and asking for gospel music. Like what? And so we take that from other people, but when it happens in the church, oh man, they never should have did that. But man, the music industry is brutal all the way around. Whether it's the music ministry or the music industry, it's all the same. If you ask me, unfortunately.
See, that's
Which
that generation that I guess you are part of. That my generation, we were the. I'm a baby boomer. If you know anything about baby boomers,
Right.
I was born doing it after the war. We do
Mhm.
we when you talk too much, you get boom boom or bam
Oh
bam
yeah.
every day. Okay, someone
Yeah.
snatch you off the drums, off the organ, take you to the back behind the curtain, bang bang.
Right.
Next
Oh yeah.
time, next time, don't open your mouth. Next time, don't or next time, don't even show up. And
Oh yeah.
you hear what I'm saying? That's
Oh
my
yeah.
generation.
Oh
I go,
yeah.
I go to the, I still go to the gym now. Went to the gym today. You know why I go to the gym? You know why I go to the gym? Because I told the Lord, I said, Lord, in case I
Right.
run into a Goliath
Right.
and I have to be David, it's not going to go well for Goliath.
Right. No,
Because
I
why?
hear you.
Because I'm not going to walk into no church and deal with some
Right.
attitude musician in the church, which I've had it
Right.
done, where you go sit down to the piano and they take the chord, power chord from the organ,
Oh yeah.
and everybody play dumb, and then you find the
Mhm.
chord and the person standing there looking at you foolish. I said, come here, with anybody in the pastor's office, let's go back here, let's talk.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
and again, when I get done, he will either be going home or he'll be sitting on the moon's bench. But
Right. No, yeah.
but we don't we my generation don't deal with that type of nonsense. No, I
Oh,
come from a no nonsense generation.
right.
Okay, no
Well,
nonsense,
I know like
especially in the house of the Lord. Don't come in there.
who was
I
that
don't.
Donnie McClurkin. I went to a time where this is when I guess they would get the singers cheaper if they asked them to speak. And they brought Donnie McClurkin in, and we have a lot of capable musicians in the Rochester, New York area. Um, this particular night, I don't know what was happening, but I will say he started singing Stan, and
I got a story for
it
that.
was not a good experience. He stopped it right in the middle of the song, and he said to the organist, "You mean to tell me that you knew I was coming in town, and you had the audacity to jump on the organ and not know one of the most famous gospel songs out there, and he just got on the organ himself. He moved him that gentleman off the organ and got on it himself and played it. And I was just like, wow. But I come from old school Church of God in Christ. You know what I'm saying? You got booty bumped off the organ, off the drums, off the bass. I come from that arena where it's like that. You know what I mean? But I think now a lot of these musicians tend to be oversensitive, I'll say, because again, you should have a bunch of things in your tool belt and not just know your instrument, but you should know the flow. You know what I mean? The flow. Like as a drummer, I may not know the numbers in regards to chords,
Yeah.
but I know that when it's doing a change, if they're doing some changes in them chords, 1 6 5 2, whatever it may be, I know I need to accent those with a hit.
Thank you for
So
giving me that definition, Burgess, about what a flow is, as far as
right,
that's concerned. And but I dealt with Donnie. I dealt with Donnie. The song was Stand, and I played at the well, supposedly what I would thought would be a good beginning. I played dun 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 dun. Donnie said no, that's not the way I want it. He wants dun 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 dun, and he played it himself. He said,
the
"Now I want
exact
you
way
to
it's
play it,"
written. Yeah.
and I
Yep.
played it just that way during rehearsal. He wanted it just like he wanted it, how the beginning of Stan should go. So, so I'm. Mm-mm. Before rehearsal for me, if my pastor gonna say like yeah, not like but if he's gonna tell me in advance who's going to be, and I said I need to talk with that person. I've done this. I've done that with Hezekiah Walker. I've done that with Donnie McClurkin. I've done that with Bishop Hezekiah. Yeah, I did. I said Hezekiah Walker, didn't I? Okay, and that woman from the Nashville Super Choir. In advance, I said I'd like to know what you are doing because I've seen so many services whereby they tried something during service and the musicians did not know. With Kim Burrell, for example, she wanted to do "Don't Wait Till the Battle Is Over," shout now. The this jurisdictional state choir and the musicians did not know how that song went. They didn't. I went up there and I knew some of them, the musicians. I said, "Do you all know how this song goes?" And they didn't say anything. So I just came back to my seat. Because some people in the audience told me, said, "David, could you get up there?" I said, "No, because for one thing, I ain't Church of God in Christ. I'm not going to be sitting around here being booted off. No." Mm-mm.
That's where the sliding begins.
So I did what I did, and asked the questions, and then they didn't say anything to me, so I just went back to my seat. I said, "This is backwards. They should be in rehearsal with her before."
Well, see, some people like again, her I would never play for.
Yeah.
I would never play for her. There are certain diva wannabes who she was she was a hit. Her first two, she was overnight hit. First two albums were wonderful. I enjoyed them. I still enjoy them. The rest
Everlasting Life, that was a good album.
and the first one
Don't leave
was
me out in the cold.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
the
the
rest. The
prodigal.
rest of them are just it's the same thing with Kirk Franklin. His first two, maybe three. After that, it became too commercial. And that's
Yeah.
what happens to a lot of musicians and singers. When you lose that church feel of your music, that's
Hmm.
or the church flow, no one can feel what you're doing because you're singing outside of our of who we are. If I
Right.
want to watch a commercial,